Have you ever noticed that in the Bible there are ideas, concepts, and even people that show up, disappear, show up somewhere else, disappear, show up somewhere else again, and we're kind of expected to follow the storyline, even though it's being kind of sprinkled, seasoned throughout the Scripture to a larger or lesser degree, depending on the topic or the person. And how do I get to an understanding of what's going on? That's what we're going to discuss in this video. Now, this video is a part of a larger series of videos called The Disciple. If you go to our YouTube channel under Bethel Pittsburgh, you will find a playlist titled The Disciple. In there, you'll notice the video titles will say The Disciple and then a category and maybe even a subcategory and a title of that video. And all the videos are compiled or organized under specific categories, and this is under the category of Bible knowledge. So how do I know more about what's happening in the Bible? And there are various ways of going about it. Some of those are in the video above. Some angles to look at, to information to know to get an overarching understanding. And then now we're digging into some of the specifics, and we're kind of rotating through different ways to get the specifics. And one way to get at the specifics is to do a character study, to study a particular person in the Bible. And so this is under that section, that subcategory. And the first person we're going to take is the first person. Now, I'm not taking God. I know God's a character as well, but that would take a lengthy series because obviously there's a lot about God in the Scriptures. So we're going to just focus on people that are not God. So Jesus is God, so we're going to focus on non-deity people, and we're starting with Adam. So we want to understand who Adam is and kind of get an understanding of his story and his experience that affects other people as well, so that we can understand when we're reading him, get as much depth out of the impact of who he is by reflecting on him. So he appears in story form and narrative. He appears in Genesis, the first few chapters 2 to 5. We get Abraham or Adam showing up. And what we get is he truly had a unique experience, just like Eve, in that he was the first person ever formed. Unlike the rest of humanity, he was not conceived in a womb. He did not have biological parents at all, actually. His parent was God, directly God. And he didn't spend any time in a womb, and he never spent time as an infant or a child or an adolescent. He was formed out of the dust, and God breathed his breath of life in him, and Adam became conscious and alive, immediately starting in that state. So that had to be interesting. I mean, there was no state of being prior to that, so it wasn't unusual. It was just that his experience has been unique from then moving forward. And so he began as an adult, and God had a direct relationship with him. He could hear him, could feel him, might even been able to see him. Seems like later that it was the typical experience for Adam for God to walk with him and come walk in and talk with him in the garden. So very close relationship with God. And so he was placed in the garden. He was expected to keep it, to take care of, to tend to this garden, and there was one tree placed into it. This is all before Eve. One tree was placed into it, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and he was told not to eat from that tree, but he could do anything else. So he had very little restrictions, but he had one restriction, and that was there. And then all the animals were brought to him for him to decide what their names, what they're going to be called. And so just imagine that. Every animal, unless there was some adaptation, because we know that you end up with new dog species and things like that. So it's possible there could be a number of species that weren't in existence at this time. But there's a good chance that a number of things like a gorilla come walking up face to face, and he's going to decide what the name of that thing is. A crocodile, a tiger, a wolf, a hippo. Like, think of some of the most dangerous animals. These are coming up to him, and he's saying, all right, this is going to be called this. And that's his experience. And it's possible this is all happening during the course of just one day. Because if those days of creation are literal, it's a good chance that they are, then he was created on the sixth day, same day as created on the sixth day, and all of these events are taking place in the same day. And so he's doing that, and then at some point, God points out that it's not good for Adam to be alone, in the sense that he needs another one like him. He needs another human being to relate to. And so God caused Adam to be in a deep sleep, and as he was in that deep sleep, God performed the first surgery. God opened him up, took out one of his ribs, and then fashioned a woman out of that rib, who became Eve. Adam came out of this deep sleep to see a beautiful woman in front of him, who he said she is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. And he had this attachment to her, and that was the first marriage. So he had that experience. Again, there's no people to draw on to say, oh, that's what this experience is like. This is all brand new experience. So he had a relationship with her, and we don't know how long from this day forward it was that they were in the garden before they finally, Satan showed up in the form of a serpent and challenged them on some of their perspectives, and got them to see that, or convinced them to see it this way, that God's holding out on them. Their life could actually be better if they were to just take control of their own lives and violate God's commandment and eat from that tree. And they succumbed to that temptation. Eve did first, and then she gave the apple to Adam, and he ate. They succumbed to the temptation. God shows up and confronts them, and they are removed from the garden. An angel is set up to guard the garden. They can no longer get into it, and they are now forced out into figuring out life on their own. And that introduced a lot of problems. It was absolutely harmonious before this. Everything was fulfilling. Now it's going to be difficult to reap provisions from the ground. It's going to be difficult to have children. It's going to be difficult to have intimacy and to relate to one another. And all the problems that you and I know now today, they were now newly becoming acquainted with. That's a part of the knowledge of evil, is that now they are knowing it. They're experiencing what evil is like, and so they're going through that. During that time, they end up conceiving, and they have two children. They have Cain and Abel are the two children that they have. Is it possible that they had other children? Because a lot of people struggle with that. Where did the spouses come for Cain and Abel and all of those kind of things? It's very possible that they had multiple children at this time, lots of children at this time, and over time. Just keep in mind, Adam lived, according to the scriptures, 930 years. So they had plenty of time to work out these things. And so as they're working out these things, so they could have had children, and lots of children, and they could have grown up, and then there could have been some now siblings interacting. Remember, incest wasn't really as relevant this time if it's starting with two people, because you're going to have to find a way to reproduce. And so that was there. So it's a good chance that's how spouses came about, and Cain and Abel had children. But nonetheless, Cain and Abel were the ones that were named. They have a falling out with each other. They get in this conflict, and Cain ends up killing Abel. And so Adam experiences the death of one of his children. One of his children killing another one of his children. And so he experiences that loss. We don't get a lot of details there. We just get the basic outline of what's taking place. Then people begin to have children, and you begin to get an ancestral line that is recorded as far as the amount of time. Seth, so Adam is 130 years old when Seth is born. He's based on doing the math and the genealogies. He's 235 when Enosh is born. He's 325 when Kenan is born. He's 395 when Mahalalel is born. He's 460 when Jared is born. He's 622 years old when Enoch is born. Enoch is the one who got taken up. And then he's 687 years old when Methuselah was born. The reason why all that's significant is Adam died about 57 years shy of Enoch being taken up. He died about 44 years prior to Lamech being born, and Lamech was the father of Noah. So, which means Methuselah, who was the father of Lamech, knew Adam. So Adam easily, because they lived at the same time, easily could have known Noah's grandfather. And so Noah, when we head into the flood, was just that far short of Adam. His grandfather, who he knew Adam. So even though you got centuries of history, because people were living centuries-long lives, it's really more short-lived that was going on there. And Adam was about 226 years before the birth of Noah. And so based on the numbers there, he wasn't actually all that far removed from the flood just because of how long people were living. So but then he eventually has another child. He has, actually I'm named Seth, but after Cain and Abel's conflict, he eventually had, we're not told how long after Cain and Abel. We don't get much following with Cain, well, Abel's dead, but much following with Cain. And so we don't know what the age Cain was and things like that. But we have Seth is in there. He's 130. Adam was 130 years old when he had Seth. Now, this is one of the things where you get some story to this outside of the Genesis accounts. You get Adam named in genealogical records in 1 Chronicles 1 and Luke chapter 3. And in Jude, verse 14, you get reference to Adam in a more genealogical state. You don't get really much more information other than he's a part of the genealogy. Some will say that Adam just was figuratively representative of all of humanity. The only problem with that, lots of problems with that, is the Bible doesn't treat him as a figurative figure. He's named in official genealogical records, which then presupposes that he was an actual person. Then you have Romans 5 and 1 Corinthians 15. Paul refers back to Adam as this archetype, that he is this type of Christ. That's why when you get, sometimes in some of our music, you get some of our songs, you get second Adam from above, referring to Christ. This is where that's coming from. And the reason why Adam was a type of Christ is he was directly from God. So Jesus was conceived immaculately, so there was a biological mother, but there was not a biological father. And so that's where he has some similarity to Adam. Adam was the start of humanity. Jesus is the start of the new humanity and the redeemed humanity. And so that's why the two are the same. And you get this contrast between them. Adam was a person of death. Jesus is a person of life. And the reason is because Adam chose corruption, and that's what leaked corruption into all of humanity and death into all of humanity. So he bore a lot of responsibility in the scriptures for what has taken place there. And then 1 Timothy refers back to Adam in dealing with the gender relationships, that it was Eve that was deceived, not Adam. So Adam wasn't deceived, and I still sometimes struggle with specifically what that means, because that means he knowingly committed the wrong, and yet Eve was deceived. And so there's some concern with the susceptibility to deception, despite someone's susceptibility towards corruption. So that creates this thing where men are elevated into a leadership type quality because of their less susceptibility to being deceived, at least according to the Scripture, and that's because of the story of Adam and Eve. And so all of those things fit in there, and that's kind of the life story of Adam, and that's where he sits. So if you have any questions on that, leave that in the comments below. I'd be glad to answer them. Or if you would like to grow in your person and grow as an individual in your faith, and you live in the Pittsburgh area, we would love for you to join us. We are Bethel Assembly of God at 2501 Staten Street. We meet Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Or can't join us in person, but you would like to join us via live stream. We live stream our Sunday 10 a.m. services on our YouTube channel, Bethel Pittsburgh. We'd love for you to join us there. May God bless you.